Back to Port Elizabeth, where Jayde-leigh Paulse has been following this story, sitting in court, listening to the testimony and the cross-examination of our first witness there, Cheryl Zondi. Let's go there now and catch up with Jayde-leigh to find out what's happened today and what we can take away from today's exchanges, I guess, between Peter Daubermann and Cheryl Zondi. It got heated at some times, but not as much as yesterday, Jayde-leigh.
That's very true. Some would say that Peter Daubermann toned it down, Peter. He was not as ruthless as people would say or call it as yesterday. He used words like ma'am instead of Zondi, Miss Zondi and witness. So, really a different defense advocate, Peter Daubermann, during cross-examination. But I must also make mention of the fact that, Peter Daubermann did come out showing those videos of Zondi when she was attending the church crusades in KwaZulu-Natal as well as Port Elizabeth, showing how she had adoration for Pastor Timothy Omotoso and in the workings of the Jesus Dominion International Church, and also how she publicly, apologized to the congregants of the church when she first left the congregation. You would know that she left the congregation after the first incident in Umhlanga when he allegedly assaulted her, and then thereafter she returned. And once she returned, she went back to the congregation and asked for forgiveness and said that the Jesus Dominion International Church was a church that everyone should stay at. They shouldn't leave, that it was a safe haven, that it was home, and that the pastor, or she calls it the man of God, was a true leader and a true father to her. Peter.
So despite those videos and the images that they show, she once again was testifying of how scared she was and that she was fearful that she might face double the punishment for disobedience this time around.
That's very true, Peter. Peter Daubermann, the defense advocate, spent a lot of time asking her why did she return to the church after she initially left the first time. And we saw Zondi saying that, she was very afraid of Pastor Timothy Omotoso. She was scared, but she also did not want to defy him. She used the words defy because she also made reference of the fact that she was scared of her life, that she truly believed that if she left the church, that Timothy Omotoso would harm her, would bewitch her, or she would die. So these are the reasons why she did not want to leave the church, and that is why she returned to the church. But defense advocate Peter Daubermann questioning her very relentlessly about the reasoning, and also saying that if you return to the church, you knew very well that you would be sexually molested again, you would be raped, and you took that chance. And we saw Zondi saying, yes, she did take that chance, but that she was just afraid of Timothy Omotoso. But Peter, with me right now, I also have with me the chairperson of the CRL Commission, Ms. Thoko Mkhwanazi-Xaluva, and I just want to chat to her about her sitting in on the proceedings and what she thought of the trial so far. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, you've sat and you've listened to Zondi give her testimony, but also to the defense advocate Peter Daubermann cross-questioning her. Just in terms of the commission, what is the commission doing in making sure that witnesses such as Zondi, young girls who have been sexually molested in churches, that they get the help that they deserve?
Part of what we do is the Constitution says we must protect the rights of religious communities. Part of what we do. But what we've done is to go beyond that, to say there's a crisis happening within Christianity especially, and that there's a lot of spiritual, emotional and sexual abuse. We did our research, which we finalized in 2017, that looked at commercialization of religion and the abuse of people's beliefs, because we realized that people believe in God. You go into a church situation believing in God, and then someone else exploits that and abuses that and abuses you spiritually, financially, emotionally, and physically and sexually. And we've said we need a system where people who find themselves in these situations can go to a peer review mechanism where the peers, because most people don't want to go to the police. We've had to work through a lot of others who said, we're here to tell you that my pastor has been abusing me, saying to me, if I sleep with him, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get this and this in my life. And I can't now go to the police about it. It's part of the spiritual and emotional and physical and sexual abuse that you find in some of the churches. You find that people get into this situation simply because they believe in God. And we're saying the abuse of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The church itself must fight this thing. We need to hear the voices of the religious sector supporting the victims beyond us. Because the narrative in this country is that Mkhwanazi-Xaluva creates these victims. They are not there. This is proof beyond reasonable doubt that all these young people are ready to come forward. It hasn't been easy for them. It's been a hell of a roller coaster, and we're hoping that the criminal justice system will take that into consideration.
Now, a lot of the religious sectors have come out saying that, these mushroom churches, so to speak, half of the time the pastors are not ordained. Just looking at South Africa and looking at foreign pastors who are preaching in the country, we see cases where pastors have forced the congregants to eat rats, to drink petrol for healing, for blessing. When you look at this case of Timothy Omotoso and, the allegations that he sexually molested these young girls. Clearly, this is not the only isolated cases. There are many others. Why do we see our young women falling victim to this? Why do we see, when we were listening to Zondi, she was saying that she was enamored by the pastor. She didn't want to defy him. She was afraid of him. Why do we see our young women falling into this trap?
It's part of the abuse of people's beliefs. When someone says, God said, God is telling me this. You find that even now there are people who still believe in him, who still believe he's a man of God, who still believe he can interact with God at many levels. And if you are young and you are desperate to sing, and you are promised that you'll be singing with Beyonce, with everyone, and you believe that I'm coming into this holy space because I'm going to be blessed by God, and because I'm blessed by God, I'm going to have all these wonderful things happening in my life. It is extremely difficult to extricate yourself from that, because you are psychologically in it, we are emotionally in it, we are spiritually vested in it, and we tend to underestimate the spiritual part of being in a congregation, of being part of this holy family where good things are going to happen. And we're saying we need as a nation to start educating our people, both the young and old. We are, as the CRL Commission, looking at a national public awareness campaign. We're fundraising for it. We're hoping we'll get funding from the donors. We've approached the National Lotteries Commission, for instance, and other donors to say, let's educate our people that no one talks to God. Let's just put it as bluntly as all that. If someone says to you, God was talking to me, tell them to go to the psychiatric ward. Because if they say God is talking to them, and calling them and telling them this is going to happen, I've got all the power, I can curse you, I can make you die just by saying so, because God listens to me. No, we are in trouble. And the more we become skeptical, it's time we became skeptical as a nation and start saying it's not only those pastors that are from other countries. The pastor who's feeding people frogs and whatever now is from Pretoria. And you find that the local ones are feeling left behind. You see, he fed people snakes and now he's feeling left behind, there's this other thing happening, let me try and produce my own magic. This competition needs to stop. We're risking with people's lives, we're playing with people's lives. The other straightforward religious leaders, you've thrown the gauntlet down at them and said, it's your problem, solve it yourselves. We can't be chasing after the ambulance. Get rid of these people from your sector. Some people are just not fit to be religious leaders. We need to accept that, and they need to accept that. If you like animals, go work in a zoo. If you are a beast by nature, find help or go to jail, whichever comes first.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, there, Peter, you have it, the CRL chairperson speaking about the Timothy Omotoso case and also saying that as the commission, they're going to ensure that they go into the communities and speak to young ladies, speak to young men, and also tell them that they should not be roped into churches that brainwash them, that tell them to eat certain things or, that create an environment where they are afraid, but more so for young women also to stand up against sexual abuse, sexual violence and sexual predators within the church fraternity. Peter.
Jayde-leigh, thanks very much indeed. That's where we're going to leave it for today. That's been a wrap-up of the trial of the ongoing rape trial of Pastor Timothy Omotoso that's taking place in the Port Elizabeth High Court. And just hearing there from Jayde-leigh about the challenges a young woman faces when she deeply believes in her religion and there's a powerful person overseeing, mentoring her, influencing her in certain ways. Well, very soon we're going to be talking to Makhosini Nkosi about the conduct of the advocate Peter Daubermann, whether he crossed the line or not. Is it fair play? Find out in a short while. We're going to take a quick break.